Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Lesser Known but Awesome Heroes. And today's installment will actually be a double issue. Yes, today I'll be talking about two members of the Flash family. And first up is the pariah of the Flash family. Yes, the very first, the original, the Golden Age Flash, Jay Garrick. One of the original founding members of the Justice Society of America, the JSA. And Garrick was created by Guy Fawkes and Harry Lampert, I believe is how you pronounce that name, in Flash Comics #1 in January of 1940. And Garrick was a college student prior to 1940, although this would later be retconned to 1938. And he accidentally inhaled hard water vapors while falling asleep in his laboratory where he worked at. However, later stories would change this to heavy water vapors, and as a result he found that he could actually move at superhuman speed and similarly fast reflexes. However, many retcons would actually imply that the inhalation actually just activated a latent metagene. After a brief career as a college football star, he dons a red shirt with a lightning bolt and a stylized metal helmet with wings based on images of the Roman god Mercury, and begins fighting crime as the Flash. The helmet actually belonged to Jay's father, who fought in World War I. And he has been seen using the helmet as a weapon / type of shield, as seen in Infinity Crisis. He has also used it to direct a beam of light at Eclipso. And he has actually been a member, and Jay's first name is actually Jason Peter Garrick, although a lot of people call him Jay for short. He has been a member of the Justice League, the Justice Society, and the All-Star Squadron. In his first case, it involved the Faultless Four, a group of blackmailers who in early stories seems to be widely known that Garrick was the Flash. Later stories would show him as having his identity secret, and he was able to maintain it by using a mask by constantly vibrating his features, making it hard to recognize or clearly photograph. The effectiveness of this is debatable, as he later blamed his lack of a mask for Jane, his girlfriend, deducing his true identity. During his career, he would often find himself embroiled in semi-cosmical situations, mainly involving many other characters, such as Winky, Blinky, and Naughty, a troupe of trumps known as the Three Dimwits, who tried their hand one job after another and were never successful. It was there revealed a professor had found a last container of hard water vapors and used it to gain super speed, becoming the rival, in a sense Jay Garrick's version of the Reverse Flash or Professor Zoom. He briefly took away Garrick's speed after capturing him, making him super slow, but Garrick used the gases again and was able to retain his super speed and beat the rival. Like many of the Flashes that followed him, Garrick would become a close friend of the Green Lantern of his time, Alan Scott, who I've also talked about. And they would later, alongside many other members, including Jim Corrigan, who was the Spectre at the time, Hawkman, Ted Grant, also known as Wildcat, and many others, to actually form the Justice Society. He was actually one of the most best known of the Golden Age superheroes. He was a founding member of the JSA and served as its first chairman. Originally based in New York City, it was later retconned to the fictional Keystone City. He left the JSA after issue #6, but returned several years later, issue #24 of spring of 1945, and had a distinguished career as a crime fighter in the 1940s. Several pieces of retroactive continuity filled out early Garrick history. A story explaining the retirement of the JSA members, including the Flash, explained that in 1951 the JSA was investigated by the House Un-American Activities Committee for possible communist sympathies and asked to reveal their identities, which was later revealed to be partly done by Pardegatton, I can't pronounce that. The JSA declined, and Garrick, who recently married his longtime girlfriend Jane, retired from superhero life. As a trained scientist, he ran an experimental laboratory for several decades. All-Star Squadron Annual Number 3 states that he fought alongside the JSA fought a being called Ivan Karkurl, who imbued them with energy that slowed their aging, allowing Garrick and many others, as well as their girlfriends and sidekicks, to remain active into the late 20th century without anonymity. The 90s Starman series notes that the Shade prompted Garrick to come out of retirement in the 1950s, but the details of his activities during this time are a bit hazy at best. He would, however, emerge from retirement in 1961 to meet the Silver Age version of the Flash, Barry Allen, from a parallel world. Garrick's world was dubbed Earth 2 and Allen's was Earth 1. And the rest of the JSA soon joined the Flash, though their activities during the 1960s, other than their annual meeting with Earth 1's JLA, were unrecorded. That he and Green Lantern Alan Scott were good friends is clear, however. Garrick was also a key member of the JSA's 1970s adventures, as chronicled in All-Star Comics and Adventure Comics, and would help launch the careers of Infinity Inc. following the Crisis on Infinite Earths. When the parallel worlds became merged, Keystone City became the twin city across the river from Allen's Central City. An updated story suggests that Keystone in this new continuity was rendered invisible and wiped from the memories of the world for many years through the actions of several supervillains. And this and that and many other things. But basically, guys, Jay Garrick has had a very long and historic career, and he actually helped train Wally West, who would become the later Flash. He would actually help train Wally West, who would become the later Flash, the third Flash at that, and would basically mentor him. And also, Jay Garrick, as you can tell by this picture, has shown up in Batman Brave and the Bold. He's in DC Universe Online. He's still a prominent member of the old guard, if you will, of the JSA and JSA Comics. He's actually been shown in brief snippets in Young Justice, and that's, to me, pretty cool. I'm glad, and I'm kind of glad that DC acknowledges, how, in a sense, that Garrick is the original Flash, that he's the guy who started all, and that he inspired Barry Allen to take the name of the Flash. And that's pretty much it for Jay Garrick, guys. So all you Barry Allen and Wally West fans, keep this in mind. If it wasn't for this man right here, you wouldn't have Barry Allen, you wouldn't have Wally West, you wouldn't have Bart Allen, you wouldn't have any of the Flash family, because this is the guy that started it all. So, although Jay Garrick does not get the due that he deserves, he more than makes up for it, and that definitely makes him a very, very awesome hero. But as the time is rolling out, we move on. Speaking of which, talking about legacies, let us move on now to the second Kid Flash / First Impulse, and a member of the actual comic book Young Justice team. Yes, now I will be switching over and talking about Bart Allen. Bartholomew or Bart Allen. He would first appear as Impulse. He would first appear as Impulse in Flash Volume 2, number 92 in June of 1994, and as Kid Flash, he was in Teen Titans Volume 3, number 4 of December of 2003. And he would actually temporarily, age into an adult and take over the mantle of the Flash during Infinity Crisis number 5 in April of 2006, and he was created by Mark Waid and Mike Wieneringo. I don't even know how to pronounce that guy's last name, but anyway, moving on. As depicted in a Legion of Superheroes arc, Barry Allen's children, the Tornado Twins, were arrested in 2995 AD by the government of Earth, which had fallen under the covert action of the Dominators. Following a one-day trial on trumped-up charges of treason, the twins were executed. According to a Daily News Planet report, Don Allen is survived by his wife Carmen Johnson, his mother Iris West Allen, and his 2-year-old son Barry Allen II. This timeline was wiped out by the events of Zero Hour Crisis in Time limited series. However, a parallel set of events occurred in Earth 247, the Earth of the post-Zero Hour Legion, with the Tornado Twins and their families having traveled there from New Earth. Suffering from a hyper-accelerated metabolism, Barry Allen was aging at a Bart Allen was aging at a faster rate than that of any human being, thus causing him to appear at the age of 12 when he was chronologically only 2 years old. To prevent him from developing mental health problems, he was raised in a virtual reality machine which created a simulated world that kept pace with his own scale of time. When it became clear that this method was not helping, his grandmother, Iris Allen, took him back in time to the present, where the Flash, Wally West, tricked Bart into a race around the world by forcing Bart into an extreme burst of speed. Wally managed to shock his hyper metabolism back to normal. However, he had spent the majority of his childhood in a simulated world. He had no concept of danger and was prone to leaping before he looked. The youth proved to be more trouble than Wally could handle, and he was palmed off into retired superhero speedster Max Mercury, who moved Bart to Manchester, Alabama. Bart originally created the Impulse codename for himself, though a retcon in Impulse number 50 has Batman codenaming him as a warning, not a compliment. Bart joined the Titans early in his career before going on to become one of the founding members alongside Robin and Superboy of the superhero team Young Justice. For a time, he was the owner of a spaceship granted to him by a rich sultan in appreciation for having helped save his castle. The team used this ship to reunite Dibby Dickles with his queen and restore the rightful rule of Mayrig. Impulse would stay with Young Justice for an extensive period of time when he developed the ability to make Speed Force energy duplicates. This allowed him to be in multiple places at once. The newly acquired power proved useful until one of the duplicates was killed. During the Outworlds at War storyline, when half of the team was lost on Apocalypse, Bart quit Young Justice temporarily as the death of his duplicate led him to come to terms with his own mortality. Following Max Mercury's disappearance, Bart was taken in by Jay Garrick, the first Flash, and his wife Joan. After the breakup of Young Justice, he joined some of his former teammates in a newly formed lineup of Teen Titans. Shortly before joining the Teen Titans, he was shot in the knee by Deathstroke, who at the time was possessed by Jericho, and received a prosthetic one. While recovering, Bart read every book in the San Francisco Public Library and reinvented himself as the new Kid Flash. Once healed, the artificial knee did not affect his ability to run at speeds approaching the light. When Robin reminded him that by becoming Kid Flash he would be forced to live in the Flash's shadow, Bart said firmly, "No, he'll be living in mine." In the Titans Tomorrow storyline, Bart would assume the mantle of the Flash after the current Flash died in a crisis. In an alternate future, he was able to steal the speed of others, a power he used on his past self. This reality shows a grown Bart posing as a member of the so-called Titans of Tomorrow. However, he is really a spy working on behalf of Titans East, a resistance group led by the future Cyborg. Additionally, the future Bart is romantically involved with Rose Wilson, the Ravenger. And this and that, and many other storylines. Bart would eventually become the fourth Flash and die. Then he would return back as Kid Flash, and he would be lost in the Speed Force and all kinds of other things. I mean, there's just so much, guys. just so much to try to talk about and so little time to talk about it. So I'm basically just going to put it like this. Bart has had just as equally, in the short amount of time that he's debuted, he's had a tremendous comic book history. And and of course, one thing that this begs the question, if Bart is from the 25th century or so, wouldn't he be affecting the time stream, being the new Kid Flash? But nevertheless, he is still part of the Teen Titans, and he is still Kid Flash. And what's really cool is that he's still, even in the New 52, he's still a member of the Teen Titans. So, I've talked about the past of the Flash family legacy, and I've talked about the future of the Flash family legacy. So, that, ladies and gentlemen, is it. That is the entire Flash family legacy right there. I'm not going to talk about Barry Allen because most of you know who Barry Allen is. I'm not going to talk about Wally West because I'm sure most of you know who Wally West is. And you guys can research their information for yourselves. But I just felt that I had to talk about Bart Allen and Jay Garrick because it seems like when you talk about the Flash, most people only talk about Wally. They only talk about Barry. They never mention Jay all that often, and they definitely don't mention Bart nearly at all. And that's kind of sad, because both of these guys are members of the Flash legacy, and they should be honored just as much as Barry and Wally. But that's it, guys. That is the past and future of the Flash. So, stay tuned.